Bàbá máa ń ríra. Bàbá máa ń ríra. Mo sì ọ̀nà bíi ẹgbẹ́ ìlàjì máa ń ríra pẹ̀lú bàbá.
Okay, please, if you can see my screen, just let me know. So I'll continue. So yeah. All right, thank you. So like I was saying, a function basically has something it is returning, right? Now, how do you, why would you like to, why would you use a function, basically? So functions basically, so when you can use a function in a situation whereby you have an action that is being performed in many places, right? Maybe you have something that is doing, like, for instance, now you're writing, for example, you're writing 2 times 1, 2, like multiply, you are trying to build a multiplication table, for example, right? And then you're writing 2 times 1, 2, let's say, for instance, instead of me to come and be saying 2 multiply by 2 equal to, yeah, then I'll now come and do another, or let's say let multiple equal to. So 2 times 1, 2 times 2, I mean to say, if I console log this, it should give me, let me log multiple. So if I log this, it should give me 4, right? So instead of me to come and start going through the stress of doing 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times, I'm performing one action multiple times, right? I'm doing so many, like a particular action multiple times. So instead of me to stress myself to do this, I can just create a simple function that will do that with just a few lines of code, 1 or 2 lines or 3 lines of code, and it will just give me multiplication table. Do you understand? So now, how do you create a function, or what's the JavaScript, what's syntax for a function, basically? I already wrote this yesterday, but I'm writing it again. So first of all, it starts with the function keyword in JavaScript. So you have function, right? And then the next thing that follows is the name of the function. Although in JavaScript, we have anonymous functions. So those are functions which do not have names, right? You don't give it a name, right? But mostly you see functions that have names, right? It's in rare occasions you see anonymous functions, which are, it could even be a function that is coming inside of another function, right? So, but for now, let's stick to the simple function for now. So the next thing is the name of the function. Now, let's say we want to create a function that returns the multiples of any number that you give to it. So it multiplies any 2 numbers, right? So it means that the function would have to take numbers, take in something, right? So the first thing is the name. So let's say multiplication. Yeah. And then it follows with this opening and closing bracket. And then we have the opening and closing brace. So this is basically the syntax of a function, right? Now, for a function that we have said we want it to give us the multiple of 2 numbers. So we want it to multiply 2 numbers and give us the result of any 2 numbers at all, right? That means you would need to tell the function that, functional, I want you to accept 2 numbers. Because before it can give you the result, it has to you have to tell it that, okay, oh, the numbers I want you to multiply and give me the result is maybe 10 and 2, or maybe 3 and 4, or maybe 100 and 1000. Any number you can think of, basically. So you have to inform the function that it has to take in something. I want to give you something so that you can give me the result of that thing that I'm giving you, right? So how do you do that? You would have to, it means that you have to come inside of here and tell it that I want you to take in two numbers. So what it means is that you're going to be creating two variables. So in function terms, we call it parameters, right? Parameters. So some functions don't necessarily have parameters because they don't need you to, for instance, let me even demonstrate that. So let's say console.log, this is a function. So this function, I can just call it and it will print out what is there for me. This function now, this particular function, the job now, currently, is just to return that statement that is inside there. And then when I call the function, that is when I invoke this function, which is the name of the function is multiplication. I call it, right? If I call it and run this code, it's going to just print out, this is a function for me. So currently, this is the job of this function, right? But now I want the functions. Somebody dropped the comment. Okay. So now I want the function to do something, right? To do multiplication for me. So it means that it has to take in the numbers that I want it to multiply. If not, it will not know what to multiply, right? So for me to do that, it means I'll have to announce it here. I'm going to create variables because I don't want to hard code things, right? You can also say, go straight and say, let's say let multiple now be equal to 2 times 3. Yeah. And then when I do console.log multiple, this would log this for me, but this is kind of hard coded. It will give me the multiples of 2 times 3, which is 6. Yeah. Currently, it is returned the multiple of 2 times 3. But what is the essence of creating a function that you will now come inside and now hard code something? What if I now want to get multiple of another number again that is not 2 times 3, right? It means with this, the way it is now, I can't get it. It will only, anytime I call this, if I call this function, say I call this function 10 times, it will still return 6 10 times. Do you understand? If I call this function 1000 times, it will return 6 because what I've put inside here is static. It's not dynamic, right? So now I don't want this because the aim of creating a function is I want to be able to call this function. When I call this function once or maybe how many times I call it, I want to be able to reuse it to perform operations multiple times, right? So what I can do is create a variable here and say, let's say num1. So I want it to do multiplications of two numbers. So I'm going to put in two variables. So num1 and then num2. All right. And then, so what it means is that this will no longer be here. This will no longer be here. I will do, I no longer, okay, I can use, so what I'll do is this 2 times 3 it will no longer be here. What I will possibly do is now say num1 multiply by num2, right? So now, you might be wondering, so where will you now put in the number that you want it to multiply? Because if I run this code now, it will return nothing. If I run this code, it will return none. None is not a number. This thing now is not a number. Right? It's returning none because I have not provided any number at all. right? So what I will now do is when I come in, so where I will now provide the numbers is inside the function call, right? So in the first function call, I can say 2, 1. These are the two numbers that I'm giving it. So 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 7, 2, 8, 2, 9. Thank God say reach 10. 2, 10, right? So if I run this code now, I'm going to get the result of the multiples of all these numbers here at each point, right? So you see, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 till up until 20. If I now want to make it look like a, what is it called? Multiplication table. You can now just create a string here and then add, so you will now start the work. 2 times 1, 2, 2 times 2. That one now, because you want it to print it, yeah, you have to, okay, it should be equal to 2. Yeah, I won't take so much time to go over all of them, so I'll just stop somewhere. So this is 2 times 2 equal to, and then this should be 2 times 3 equal to, yeah. So if I print this, let me remove this ones. So if I print this, this is returning not a number. Why? Um, why? Oh, okay, yeah, I made a mistake. So this is a function that is taking into argument, and then I'm adding a string inside of it. This is wrong. Okay, so no, this is not where I should put that. It should actually be in the console log. So means this will not be here. I'll take this out, take this, put it inside the console.log. Yeah, so what I should do is something like this: 2 times 1 equal to, I now put comma, and then I put in the function call inside of here. So this is what should actually be, it should actually look like. Let me, so this is what it should look like. Console.log, then 2 times 2, yeah, then I paste my function here. So if I run this now, it should return what I want for me. Okay, sorry, return multiple. So why it failed, why it returned undefined is because I didn't tell it to return anything. And if you see here, you see that the multiple is actually not active, right? So every function that will return something should have a return type. So if I'm not console logging, then I should be returning what it should return. So at this point, it should be returning the multiple, the result of two numbers, multiplication of two numbers, which is this, right? So I need to add a return statement so that outside of it, we can access it. Remember when we talked about function yesterday, when we talked about scopes, some of these key variable keywords being function scoped, block scoped, and all of that. So In the case of let, it is block scoped. So this variable that I declared in here, if I did not return it, it will not be accessible out of here. So anything that it is holding at this point will not be accessible outside of this function. So I need to return it so that it can be accessible outside of the function, right? So yeah, that's why we need the return keyword. So this is a keyword in JavaScript that you use to basically return a certain thing from a function, right? And another thing with return is once you put a return here, it will basically invalidate the next thing that is coming after it because you're saying return. So once you're saying return, it means that when it gets here, it will return whatever is here and ignore whatever is after the return statement. So when I run this now, we should get the result that we want. So yeah, this is 2 times 1, 2 times 2. Yeah, so with this, you can actually basically create a multiplication table with just this function, right? So yeah, the same way with addition. So this can be addition. So if you change this from multiplication to addition, it will basically return sum for you. And then what you do is just call sum and then call sum, right? And if you run this, it should return the sum of these numbers for you. Yeah. So yes, this is functions. So I'll just rush over to operators, touch that before. I don't know if anybody has any questions regarding the functions. Any questions? Any questions? I'm seeing comments. So is there, okay. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, okay. Please, I asked if anybody has any questions. Any questions? Is there any confusion on the functions or anything I've said so far?
None for now, I guess. We believe maybe when we go back and go and start working on what you'll be able to have questions then.
All right. I mean, the Slack channel is open for that. So the next thing we have here today is operators, which we've already even used a few of them here, like the multiplication, so we have operators. So operators in JavaScript are basically your symbols or keywords used to perform operations, mathematical operations on variables and different values, right? And they are basically categorized under different four parts. So we have the arithmetic operators, we have the comparison operators, we have logical operators, we have assignment operators. So these are the 4 major categories of the different operators that we have. So going over each of them, we have the addition, right, which we all know, plus and minus, plus, sorry, right? So you can use it to basically perform addition on various values, right? Numbers, basically, right? So you can get the sum of 2 numbers, get the sum of 3 numbers, right? So just like you can see here, within this function, we already have num1 plus num2, which returned a value for us here. Ignore these times that I put here. That was when I was illustrating the previous multiplication table. Yeah. So it basically is addition, basically. So we all know what addition is. So in the course of writing your code, you need to like do some mathematical operations with plus, addition sign, and all of that. You can just call your addition. It's still doing the same thing. Another place you can actually use it is in concatenation, string concatenation. That's what like I said before. So I used comma here, but you can use plus just to concatenate your string. Yeah. And it will still print out the same thing that it printed out before with my comma, right? So that's another way we use the addition sign. We use it in concatenating strings. Yeah. Then the next one is multiplication, which we already saw in play here, where we did our multiplication table. So it basically used to multiply two or more numbers, right? Then we have the division. So division is your on your keyboard is I know that in mathematics you will see something like we don't even have it on the keyboard. So basically, division is your slash // yeah. That stands for division in programming. So if I change this to, let's say, let me change our function to divide, and then I put slash here. So this is going to be returning the division, the result of division of two numbers. So let's say, let me just call this result and then return results here. So if I do say 2 divided by 1, 2 divided by 1. You know what, let me just leave this because this one is no longer multiplication table. So let's just console.log our result here. Results. And then if I call this function now, divide, and then run this, I should get the result of, okay, I should give in two numbers. So let's say 3, 2. So if I run this, I'll get 1.5. So 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. So if I put 2,900 divided by 2, will give me 1,450. So yeah, so this is division sign in JavaScript, and you can basically use it anywhere, right, while writing your code. Then the next thing is subtraction, which is also the same.
Mary, there's a question for you in the chat box.
Okay, what's the question? You're asking if the terminal is able? No. So this can happen in Java, yeah, but not in JavaScript. So in Java, Java has this function called scanner. Scanner that's basically collects an input from a user. So if you use that statement of that method in Java, you can basically, on your terminal, you can basically put in, it will ask you for input, and then you put it in, and then it collects that input and basically does. But in JavaScript, we don't have that, right? So you can't possibly do that here. But if you want to, you can probably do that, and but you have to like maybe try to do something a little small, something with HTML, and then maybe on your browser, you can now use it to run do like it will just come up as an interface that you accept input, and then it returns your output for you. So you have to use with the help of CSS, right? That basically gets you something from the DOM, and then using the JavaScript, you can now perform the operations and do something. I don't know if I answered your question, Sure.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you did. Thank you.
You're welcome. So if it was Java, it would have been simple. You just use the scanner input method and then collect. Basically, that what that function does is to collect information from user, right? But with JavaScript, you can just basically use our, like we are using here, the console log, the way I'm just typing these things, and then, or you use your HTML and then integrate it. Remember, okay, so sorry. So yeah, I think that is that. Then the next thing is subtraction, which we have here. Okay, I've added it here already. So if I run this command, it's going to give me the result of 2,900 minus 2, which should be this. If I put 10 here, it should give me the results. Yeah, so then there's this called exponentiation. So I think this should be like is it raised to power?
Hello, please, Mary.
Yes.
I'm confused. You are mentioning subtraction and you have divide there.
Where?
Yeah, you just mentioned subtraction now. And you still have divide here. You are not putting subtraction. Is this supposed to be divide?
This is subtraction.
You have function, you have divide here. And
Okay.
even
The
on
name
top,
of
you
the
still have
function.
divide. You are not changing it. So I don't know. And you are saying subtraction.
Okay. So this name here is like a variable.
Yes.
It doesn't change the behavior of the function, right? Although,
Okay.
so I forgot to change it to subtraction. Yeah, but I'm not changing it because it's taking time. But this is like a
Oh, okay.
variable. Do you understand? It doesn't change for what is actually returning what is doing the subtraction is this line of code here.
This one. Oh, okay. Okay.
Do you understand?
Okay.
Not this one. Everything here this is a variable. This is a variable. These are variables, right? What is actually performing the action is this one. If you notice, where I'm actually concerned about is this signs here. Do you understand?
Okay.
So
Okay.
this line of code is what is actually doing the action. Every other thing here is just helping. I don't know if you understand.
Yeah, I got that.
So if I
Then
forget,
another thing, when you did, when you added some there, when you are doing addition,
hmm,
your let result was let multiple that time, but your code was in addition form, so it still went through. I was confused that time, but when you now mention divide, when you mention subtraction now, and you have divide, that's why I'm more confused now.
okay, but
But
now
I'm
you are
getting it
clear,
now.
right?
That is because of the code. Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
so
that's
it's the code that is actually doing the function, not even those ones. Those ones are just like
okay.
just like and it can be any name. Do you
Okay.
It can be any name. It's just that based on variable naming rules, right? You have to name your function or your variables, name that will align with what the function is doing. Do you understand?
Okay.
So that's why you have to name your function names that make sense, but it doesn't change the behavior of what the function is doing. Do you understand? So
Oh,
where the actual activity is going on is here. This line is what is actually doing this thing. This is where
oh,
the action is happening, and then it's storing the result here. And then we are
oh,
using this line to print the result. I hope
okay.
that's
Thank
clear.
you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the next one is exponentiation. I'm trying to remember what exponentiation is even doing again. In mathematics, please, what is exponent? Exponent, it's I think is it
Is that like raised to power or something?
it's like raised to power two, Abi. Raised to power, Abi.
E raised to power something something
Yeah,
minus.
so because it's the same mathematics, so it's just that in programming, because you might need it to do something, perform mathematical operations or something. So yes, so exponentiation is a multiply. in fact, let's even see what it will give us. So raised to power. Oh, shit. We have less than 10 minutes again. So this is raised to power. So I put this sign and so 10 raised to power 2 is 10 times 10. That's 100. So let's see what it should give us. Awesome. So this is raised to power, right? So so that's basically it. This exponent and this thing is used to do raised to power calculation in Java. So if you're writing a code and you need to raise to power something, you can just use that, and then it gives the result. So the next thing we have here is modulus. Very important, modulus. So modulus is an operator in JavaScript. In programming, really, because I think it works for most programming languages. I don't know if, yeah, I've not seen anyone that it doesn't work for, but for now it works for all. So what this particular modulus does is that it returns the result, the remainder of, so when you divide two numbers, the remainder, you know, when we were in nursery school, abi primary school, that time we used to do 10 divided by 2 is 2 divided by 10. 10 divided by 2 now is 5 remainder 0. Or 3.
That's in fraction.
Fraction. Do you understand? Or when you do 3 divided by 2. So if 2 people now divide it, it will now be 1 remainder 1. Right? So I'm just trying to use those terms that we're using when we were growing up so that you can remember what I'm trying to say. So what modulus does is it returns the remainder of a division operation that happens on two numbers. So if I say return the modulus of num1 and num2. So this sign is your percentage sign. That's the sign of modulus, percentage. So if I say return the modulus of 10, 2, it will return 0 because 10 divided by 2 is equal. It will remain 0. So it will return 0. So let's say we have 11 here. So this should return 1, basically, because if 2 people share 10 items, it means that all of them, 2 of them will get 5, and then they will have 1 remainder, right? So yeah, we have that. So 11 modulus 2 is 1. Yeah, so this might not really make sense now, but in the near future, you might actually be needing it. So if I run this, 23 modulus 3 is 21. So yeah, like that. So if I say, let's say modulus 20, so this will give us 3 because 120 divided by 20 will give everybody will get 20, but everybody will get 2. But 3 is the odd thing there, so that's the remainder, right? So that is what this particular operator does. Then the next thing we have here is the comparison operators. So we have comparison operators. In I don't know, when we're doing which subject is that now? Can't remember. Let me not just waste time there. So, but yeah, we have comparison operators that are used to perform some comparisons, right? And they basically return Boolean, right? They basically return Boolean. So you can have a situation, it's basically used for conditions. So let's say maybe you are checking for something and then you want, or maybe you want a particular result to be returned when 2 conditions are met, right? For example, we are going with the AND operator for now. So AND, this is the icon, this is the symbol, double your double is double and is still and icon, I think, yes. So I'm going to remove this. So so this is the icon, yeah, for the and. So I can say, so let's say, so let's say, for example, okay. So I have, let's say, let me just say result, for example, and then I have two conditions. I'm going to have to use like an if statement here. We have not even reached there, but okay, basically it should return true. So the AND operator returns true when when two or multiple conditions that you're using it for is met, like, or when all conditions are met, basically, it returns true. So when you're using the AND operator, it will only return true when all the conditions are met, right? When you're using or returns true when one of the condition is met, or when one is true, it returns true. Do you understand? I don't know if I'm making sense. So if we have like two conditions and we are saying A and B must be yellow, right? So when you now give a value, it will always wait. So the first operator, now that's the AND operator, it will always wait for those A and B to be yellow. It will check if A and B is yellow. If A and B is yellow, it will return true. But if A and B is, or if A is yellow and B is red, it will return false. I don't know if that's making sense. I don't want to go into this thing. So that's why I've just used mouth to explain this. But when we now go into conditions and this thing, we will now see this thing in play, right? And I don't want us to also come back here again for today. So, so the AND operator is basically used when we want, when two conditions need to be met for a particular action to happen. Then the OR operator, that's the second operator, the second comparison operator, will return true once any of the two conditions are true. So in the example I gave before, if A and B is here, A, so for in the case of OR, it will now be A or B, meaning that if A is yellow, it will return true. It will not even bother to check what B is, whether B is black or red, or it doesn't matter, it doesn't care, right? So that is for OR operator. Then the last comparison operator we have is the NOT operator. Now, this NOT operator, what it does is it basically negates a Boolean, right? So, and I use this a lot in most of the test automation scripts I've written. I can remember a couple of places where I've used it. But that's because maybe I'm trying to check something and then I don't want to, in my condition, I can say, if this is not here, then do this. I can't come and start typing not. You just put this exclamation mark here, and it basically negates that thing. So if you have true, once you add this particular sign, this not operator, it will basically change it to false. If you have false, if you add this operator, it will change it to true, right? Then the last ones we have here are assignment operators, right? Which are the equal to, not equal to, minus equal. I think in the next class, I would throw more light on these ones because I don't want us to come back here again for today. So do you have any questions, please? Any questions so far? These things, we are going to see them in play when we start, I think from the next class, when we talk about control structures. Okay, yes. Yeah, so any questions?
I think someone is asking in the chat box if you can get access to your slides.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I can share that.